Good morning. Welcome. My name is Drew Potter, and I am a member of Fountain Street Church, very happily so. I've been here for almost 7 years. I am an artist, a comic, a father, a poet. Not bragging, just I want you to see that there is more to me than what you see, as there is more to you than what I can ever see. I'm going to give a quick analogy, and then I'm going to read the welcome for all of you who have not seen me, and for those of you who are new. I encourage you to imagine this. You are all in your own garden. It is the springtime, and the gardens are rising up. But I don't want you to see a garden of plants. I want you to see a garden of people. And our lives are like that garden. And we don't look at a garden and mourn all of the flowers that aren't open or all of the flowers that don't open. We embrace the beauty of it all, as we're supposed to do when we're gardening. But what happens is we don't do this in our own garden. We don't embrace each other and see the hidden potential, the potential that's not there that we can't see. If a flower doesn't open and it doesn't die, what does it do? It goes back into the ground and it creates other flowers. So even if we don't do exactly what we're supposed to do, that's because we're not supposed to do that yet. It doesn't mean that we won't when we grow into another seed, another flower. But we have to smile upon all of our seeds like any mother would or should, and embrace the potential. So this is indeed a day which the Lord hath made. Is this the welcome? Okay, here we go. I'm improvising. I do improv, by the way, if anyone's interested. This is indeed a day which the Lord has made. Let us then rejoice in it and be glad. Let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, feel, hear, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. Let us be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to our daily lives. I welcome you all, and thank you so much for coming. We have exceptionally good coffee in the Commons, and that's usually where you'll find me if I'm not taking your money, because I'm an usher, and I do that, but not for me. Namaste.
Speak to one another. 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 Of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, sing ye and praise ye the Lord. Sing ye and praise ye. Of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, sing ye and praise ye the Lord. Sing ye and praise ye. Speak to one another. 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 Speak of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems, of songs and of holy writings, of carols and anthems. Sing ye and praise ye, and sing to the Lord and praise him. Speak to one another. Speak to one another. Speak to one another. Speak to one another.
Great to be here in the land of tulips and tall people. And to enjoy wonderful Midwestern hospitality. Wow, am I being treated well here by Jason and Dana, and and everyone else that I've met has been so open, warm, and friendly. It's very refreshing to be in this community and this church that I've heard about so much for so long from Jason, over the internet, and now in person. Finally, we're hanging out. It's so great. Thank you, Jason, for making this happen. It's really high time we did this. One evening at the Interfaith Council of the University of Southern California, at our weekly meeting, the subject turned to something decidedly unusual. Unusual even for this group, which I advise. It's a group of students from all the world's different religions, including many students who have no religious preference or association. And they represent student clubs from these religions. We have 90 religious clubs. That's more than any in the United States, probably in the world. And they represent religious groups about which I knew next to nothing before I took this job 7 years ago. The subject came up about, what do you do in your religion if you lose your keys? What do you do at Fountain Street when you lose your... We'll talk about that after. Well, one of our Muslim students spoke up right away, and she said, well, when we lose our keys or anything else in the Muslim religion, at least the branch of it that I'm in, we chant Yasin, 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 Yasin. We chant the word Yasin 40 times. And then we find what we lost. And I go, wow, that is really interesting. Yasin, what does that mean? That must be in Arabic. What does it mean? Well, and she said, well, we don't know. And I go, whoa, step back, okay. So you don't know the Arabic meaning of it? And she goes, no. It doesn't, we don't know what it means in Arabic. She says it's in the Quran. It's a surah, and the Surah Yasin is a part of the Quran. And she said, it's one of 3 words, this word Yasin, is one of 3 words in the Quran that have no known meaning. And I go, that is amazing. I just didn't know what to do with that. And neither did the rest of the students. So we started speculating about what this is about. And then we agreed, well, maybe it's just you know how it is. You lose something and you try so hard to find it. You're trying. Then you just give up and you think about something else. As soon as you think about something else, you find your keys. Has anybody had that experience? Probably everybody. So we're thinking, well, maybe saying this seemingly nonsense word 40 times does that to you. It just changes the subject. It turns off your anxiety about seeking for what you're trying to find, and then you're able to find it. And then I thought some more about it. I thought, wow. I asked her, I said, could it be this? That you're using a word that's lost its meaning to find things that are lost? She goes, yeah, interesting. Made her think, made me think. And then I thought, this is a kind of a homeopathic remedy. The principle of homeopathy, right? A little dose of that which ails you is the cure. You say Yasin, you have no clue what it means. You've lost the meaning to find your lost keys. Sounds good. And then I got to thinking, I got to musing some more about this. It's like, yeah, homeopathic. That's in Christianity too, my religion. Now, all of us, I think, are familiar, how could you not be, especially in Western Michigan, how could we not be familiar with the Orthodox Christian concept that the cross means that Jesus died for your sins? It's old, it's in the Bible, it's in the tradition, certainly. Meanwhile, right next to it in the tradition is a completely and very substantially different interpretation of the cross, which is the homeopathic concept. It's in the book of John, where the author of John says that as the people of Israel wandering in the desert in their exile stared at a bronze serpent in order to be cured of snake bites. So, a spiritual homeopathy for snake bites is to look at a image of that which ails you. And the book of John says, as the people of Israel gazed at the bronze serpent, and the bronze serpent was lifted up for them to gaze at it, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So that gazing at the cross, this archetypal symbol of human suffering and of humans' abuse of each other, gazing at this archetypal symbol of suffering is the cure for the human condition of suffering. This is a depth psychological spiritual interpretation based on homeopathy of the cross. So I got to thinking about that as we discussed the homeopathy that Muslims use when they lose their keys. And you begin to realize things like this when you hang out with people who practice faiths different than your own. You learn a lot about your own faith by being exposed intimately to people who practice other faiths. That's been my experience and the experience of my students every week at the Interfaith Council. Oh, and by the way, one of our Catholic students spoke up and said, well, when we lose our keys, we pray to St. Christopher. And I go, really? St. Christopher? Why not St. Jude? Because St. Jude, is the patron saint of lost causes. And the student just says, it's a mystery. Another mystery of the many mysteries. It's mysteries all the way down, folks. Because if I've learned anything in this job, serving this incredibly religiously diverse university with students from religions all around the planet, all the different faiths, the more I learn about them and their practices, the more questions I have, and the more aware I am of my ignorance about world religion. Ignorance, including of my own faith. Now, I'm not a scholar, but I'm scholarly, and I am a professional United Church of Christ ordained pastor, but I don't even have anywhere close to a clue about all that there is to know about my own faith. So many lost keys to religion, so little time to find them. Yasin, 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 Yasin. So it's all the more bewildering for a person in my position when I hear people, primarily Christian people, claim that their faith is the only true faith and that nobody can get right with God except through that faith. I just want to ask such a person, it's like, dude, have you read all of the countless pages of all the uncountable scriptures and writings of all the faiths of the world? It's staggering. It's impossible. You've prostrated in submission to Allah with Muslims and felt what they feel when they bow down, not just with Sunni Muslims, but with Shias and Alawites and Ismailis and Sufis. You know what is in the heart of a Sikh woman when she sits cross-legged, listening to kirtan music in the Gurdwara, beautiful music of praise to God from a scripture that is meant to be sung, all of it, in praise to God, to the sound of tablas, keeping the beat, and harmonium, the reedy sound of the harmonium, keeping the tune. You know enough about the spiritual status of a Hindu bowing reverently as she waves the smoke of the arti flame over her head. You know what's in her heart. You know what's in the heart of a Jewish woman who sings sweetly to her elderly patient as she changes very carefully the dressings on her sores. For Christ did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but humbled himself, taking the form of a servant or a slave, says Paul in the letter to the Philippians. I ask, how did the religion of an empty man get so full of itself that it could claim to be the only true faith? And how could people of other faiths make a similar claim when every one of their faith traditions has built into it, as an essential feature of the spirituality, humility? I would like to interrupt this sermon to ask you to join me in a little exercise here. And that is, I would like you to turn to the person, someone next to you or nearby, and smile at them. But, hold on. I want you to smile at them the way that camels smile. So pick someone out and give a camel smile to that person, please. Okay? How we doing? Any good ones out there? Yeah? Any good camel smiles? All right. Well, afterwards, you can demonstrate to me as we file out. Okay, get this. This is the reason I asked you to do this exercise. In Islam, humility is built in. For one thing, the word Islam essentially means submission to Allah, right? Bowing down. It's an out-of-ego experience to bow down and prostrate yourself in prayer in Islam. But there's another way that it's expressed, and that is that in Islam there are 99 names, really attributes, for God. Allah, the beneficent, Allah, the merciful, and so on and so on and so on. 99 names that people know about. Actually, there are 100 names, but people only know 99 of the names. The 100th name is known only by camels, which is why they smirk, because they know something that we don't. That's the tradition. So camels, smirking camels, remind Muslims every day, at least in places where Muslims hang out with camels, that there's something about God they don't know. There's more to know, and that it's beyond the human capacity to fully comprehend. But a lot of folks, a lot of Christians, still believe that their religion is superior to all others. They forgot the part, they lost the keys to humility. They forgot the part of their religion that emphasizes humility. And that is why we have Pluralism Sunday. Now, I'm sure that this community is, it's a small enough city here where your reputation is probably spread pretty far and wide. But there's still folks, I'm sure, who drive by or walk by Fountain Street Church and they see the word church there, and they assume what most Americans assume. Most non-Christians in America assume that Christians believe that their religion is the only true religion and all other religions are false at best and evil at worst. Okay? So it falls on us who use the word church, whether we're Christians or not in any kind of formal sense, to be explicit about our pluralistic approach to our faith. And that is why ProgressiveChristianity.org 20 years ago created a welcome statement that makes this concept explicit. The concept that other religions can be as good for other people as my religion is good for me. That's pluralism. Now, tolerance just means I'm willing to put up with you. I don't like your religion maybe, I think it might be complete bonkers weirdness, but I'm willing to live with you and live with the fact that your faith is here. No, we're talking about something much deeper. We're talking about an openness to the possibility that others can have as salvific or as rich an experience of faith in their faiths as we can with ours. About a decade ago, as a volunteer for ProgressiveChristianity.org, I started Pluralism Sunday, which is an opportunity for churches around the globe to celebrate this concept by talking about it in worship, and also by doing what we did this morning earlier, dancing in a circle and singing Hava Nagila, a Jewish song, and being open to the spiritual practices of other faiths. So I'm very grateful to be here in a church that's pluralistic all the time, not just on this Sunday, but every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. It's really great to be in a community that embodies this. But we have to be explicit about it. We have to express this in a public way in order to change perceptions of what Christianity is really about, or any other religion is really about. We have to put it out there in a clear way. I love how Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist teacher, described this problem of religious exclusivism, the idea that my way is the only way. And in his wonderful book, Living Buddha, Living Christ, a book that embodies religious pluralism beautifully, he says this is how he describes religious exclusivism. He says, it doesn't help. Period. He doesn't attack it. He doesn't condemn it. He just says it doesn't help. It's useless for spiritual growth. It's useless for bringing people together in community. And it's useless for learning each other's traditions. It doesn't help. And millions of Americans are figuring this out. They're catching on to this. A recent book a few years back called American Grace. It's by Robert Putnam, David Campbell, sociologists of religion, and they did a very thorough study of religious attitudes and trends in the United States and wrote this very fat book, which I commend to you. It is not, it's bedtime reading if, it'll knock you out, it's so fat, right? But a good book, and in it they describe the fact that now in America, because of the incredible religious diversity of this country, now people are exposed to people of other faiths. Now I would like for the progressive Christian movement to take credit for this trend towards religious pluralism and Christianity specifically. I'd love for our movement to take credit for this. I've spent a big part of my career promoting this concept, as have others in our movement. And it'd be great to take credit for the fact that more and more Americans get it and now believe that other religions can be as good for others as ours is for us, whatever ours is. But in fact, the major cause of it is this exposure to people all around us, even in the heartland of America, to people of other faiths. Putnam and Campbell point out that now the majority of evangelical Christians believe that people of other faiths can get to heaven without becoming Christians. That is a huge change, a radical change that most of their leaders don't get, don't know about. Eventually, the leaders are going to have to follow their followers who are leading the leaders out of the woods of a religious exclusivism. One example of a leader who's caught on is somebody you know, Rob Bell. Yes? 2 years ago, I invited him to speak at USC, and we had him come, and we had 450 recovering evangelical Christians, mostly young, show up, and they were just electrified by what this man had to say. And it was pretty funny. Afterwards, I walked with him to dinner, and I go, Rob, there's all these people I want you to meet. They're these progressive Christian, the progressive Christian movement. I want them to meet you, and I want you to meet them. And he goes, yeah, progressive Christians. I guess they've been around for a while. And I go, yeah, like 150 years. Where you been? Anyway, it was a pretty rich discussion. So here's this pastor from Grand Rapids, just now catching on to the fact that there's been another way to interpret Christianity for a lot of years. So the cracks are forming, even in the leadership, and the change is coming. And that's exciting, and you've been part of the movement to change that for a long time, and I salute you and congratulate you for that. It's happy news. And on our campus, this awakening to religious pluralism, it's exploding among not only Christians, but other religious faiths as well. Get this. Every couple of years, we have a wonderful rock musician by the name of Salman Ahmed come to our campus. And everybody knows who he is in South Asia. Nobody in America knows who he is. But he comes and does a concert. He's a Sufi Muslim from Punjab in northern India. And he packs the house with Pakistani Muslims, Indian Hindus, Indian Sikhs, and they're all doing Bhangra together in the auditorium, right? Now, you got to understand, in South Asia, Pakistanis and Indians do not do Bhangra together. Not happening. But on our campus, they're dancing together and having a great time. So it gets harder and harder for the people who come to our campus to think of their religions in exclusivist terms. So it's spreading everywhere. Our country is a crucible for this pluralism, not just toleration, but pluralism. In my novel, Sojourn, the young protagonist has a spiritual experience that propels him to go on a sojourn, to go check out all the world's religions that he can find. And what's amazing is that this kid lives in the middle of nowhere. I mean, centrally located in the middle of nowhere. He lives in southern Arizona in a little copper mining town. And, of course, all different kinds of Christianity are available to him close by. But within 100 miles of his town in the middle of nowhere, he's able to go hang out with Sufi Muslim community. He's able to hang out with the Sikhs, with the Hindu temple. And he's able to experience the world's religions in his own backyard in the middle of nowhere. This is the new America, and he is able to experience it. The more he learns from these different faiths, the more boggled he is about how much more there is to learn, the more wonderful people he meets. And then he discovers there's this group of people of all different faiths, an interfaith group, working on border justice together. And he discovers that he's just getting more and more questions, lots of answers, but more and more questions than answers. And he begins to realize that he's living the questions of spirituality through this work of interfaith service. The religions he explores, they're not all the same. They're not even necessarily different paths up the same mountain. But they share a deep human proclivity, a deep human impulse to connect with the cosmic source of love and of life. Will Josh one day join one of these religions, focus on a particular path and a particular religious community and tradition? My novel does not answer that question. But certainly it suggests that whatever path Josh might choose in the future, it will be one like yours that deeply honors those who walk other paths. So I invite you to hop into the cab of Joshua T. Stoneburner's beat-up, dusty old pickup truck and see for yourself. Go on your own sojourn to discover the spiritual treasures of the world's religions right here in your own backyard in the land of tulips and tall people. Let us cheer on the religions of the world as they rediscover the spiritual humility that is at the center of them all, a humility that so many have lost. Yasin, 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 Yasin. Fight on for religious pluralism. Amen.
Amen.